Welcome to TERF Talk Down Under. I'm Stassja and this is Ange. How you going, Ange?
I'm good, Stass. How are you?
Yes, pretty good. So we woke up to sad news here in Australia today that the Queen has died. I think that I'm convinced that she was a TERF. You can't live through what she lived through and watch women's rights take off. I mean, she was there for all of that. You can't live through that and not be a TERF, I reckon. Sure. But the big giveaway for me was that she awarded Kathleen Stock the Order of the British Empire at the height of, the transgender wars. And it's like, she's not allowed to express her opinion publicly because of her position, but doing that was just a big, that's to the gender cult. I thought it was great.
Yep. I mean, I was saying before that I'm sort of, conflicted about the Queen's passing. I think it's sad because she represents a time in my life where I was a bit more naive about the world. And, little girls thought that they could be queens and princesses, not that anyone aspired to that. But, the fact that she was a powerful woman, and in my early childhood, she was the most powerful woman. We didn't have a king, and every other head of state, every other important person was a man. But the ultimate head of state was a queen, a woman. And that was a very important thing for kids growing up in the 70s like me. And then on the other hand, I think I'm a bit of a Republican. I'm empathetic to how Aboriginal and Indigenous people view the monarchy. I think the wealth and greed and covering up Prince Andrew, all that stuff is deeply problematic. I just think it's sad. Like, when I saw that last official picture of this little frail old lady with her walking stick, and you can't zoom in on that picture and see this, 96-year-old woman with a big smile and with all this wealth and gold and stuff around her with this cheeky little smile on her face and go, yeah, she didn't choose that life. She didn't reject it, but she didn't choose it. You've got to take your hat off to her for embracing her destiny like that. It took huge strength of character. And and what a tumultuous time to be the Queen, with the rapid changes that have happened in the last 70 years. Absolutely. And she weathered them all.
Absolutely. And then there's all the bullshit with her husband. He was a bit of a sook about being second to a woman and demanded a special title. And he went off on this. I got to confess, I get all my modern royal family history from watching The Crown. So her husband went off and, did this tour of the Pacific with the Navy, and he was cheating on her. He must have been cheating on her during that time, and it all got exposed because he was like part of this gentleman's club, and the women serving drinks at this gentleman's club went to the press about the shit that they were saying at these hangouts. So look, being female absolutely shaped her life, and the fact that during World War II she was working as a mechanic to support the war effort. She's a TERF. She's had to be. Yeah.
So I got piled on Twitter this morning and lost a whole bunch of followers because I sort of said, look, I'm having conflicting views about this, so. But, feminism's for all women, even, obscenely wealthy ones.
Well, hang on. You didn't get piled on as bad as Jamila, what's her name?
Getting death threats from her own side, although she's probably pretending they were from the TERFs, but getting death threats from trans activists for misgendering a non-binary person.
so funny. Like it just went on and on and on. Like, there's it was Schadenfreude watching her, cop it from her own side. Like that's cancel culture, right?
Why doesn't she get it? Why isn't she looking at what's happening and thinking, gee, this is what's happened to J.K. Rowling, this is what's happened to Graham Lennon, this is what's happened to nearly everybody, and now it's happening to me. Maybe there's a problem here. But oh no, she'd rather pander to those people who wish to cause her harm.
Yeah. Anyway, suck shit, Jamila. Oh, look, the other hilarious spectacle this week, thank you for bringing it to my attention, Ange, was the piss protest. So if you haven't seen it, everyone, a bunch of trans people, most of the photos I saw was of a trans woman. They'd like stored up their piss in bottles and left, what was it, like 70 bottles of piss out the front of the UK, what is it, the Equality and Human Rights Commission or something like that. And one of them went so far as to piss himself and pour a bottle of piss over himself. Like,
and he wasn't wearing any pants, so the outline of his repulsive todger was visible to the public. And the pictures that were circulated were of him pouring pee on himself with what do you call a half boner? I haven't even thought about boners for so long. I can't even remember what they call them anymore. But yeah, it's just revolting. And the Vice was the one that brought that to our attention, that sort of media platform Vice. But the Australian media have completely ignored it because they know that it is a peak trans moment to see that kind of disgusting, fetishizing activism from blokes who insist they are women. So if you look for it, share the shit out of it, because the Australian public really needs to know that that's who they're describing when they're saying trans women are women.
I couldn't help but think, like, is this was part of that whole process some sort of like golden shower fetish thing going on? People that
Probably.
like being pissed on.
Probably that's part of that subculture, though, isn't it? Being degraded.
Yeah.
Which they consider to be a feminizing process, being degraded further and further and further. That's part of the kink, isn't it? It's disgusting. Yeah, and the fact that it was in protest of them defending the need for sex segregated toilets, and women don't want men in their toilets because one of the reasons is they piss everywhere. So it's a complete and utter own goal. Crazy stuff.
Oh mate, it was so funny, so bad.
Yeah, they do it for us. It's grouse.
What else? Okay, there was a terrible article in the Age Sydney Morning Herald by none other than Wendy Toohey and some other guy, Cameron Houston. So the whole article was about this research that's come out of La Trobe University, showing that trans people face intense sexual violence in prisons, which I'm sure some of them do, but we all know here that it's no reason to put women prisoners at risk. So the whole article was just, the poor trans people, they had these terrible experiences, and then towards the bottom, like the last 4 paragraphs, they talked about the situation at the Dame Phyllis Frost women's prison here in Victoria, where there's the sex offender is being housed, and those women petitioning against it. And then the last 2 paragraphs were regarding a sexual assault that took place at Tarrangower women's prison here in Victoria. The perpetrator was a trans-identified male. The rumor is that he's since been transferred back to a men's prison, but just such disingenuous reportage there from Wendy Toohey in The Age, just disgraceful.
Paul Denyer, the Frankston serial killer, trans-identifying, and apparently he's trans back, but for 10, 15 years, he's been spending millions and millions of dollars of taxpayer money to try and get, surgery and medication for his trans identity, which he's apparently since desisted in the last couple of years. Now, he's a perpetrator, and I have very little empathy for him if his female identity is attracting the wrong kind of attention in prison. They're like trans people, but they're not saying trans murderers, trans rapists. They're trans people. Like they're always trying to make trans people look like these innocent victims. Even the famous ones.
Yeah. Really shocking stuff. What was I going to say? Yes. So the research paper that article was based on, I had someone, an academic from our circles, go through the actual research paper. She sent me a whole report on it. We're working on a strategy to sort of expose this, but it's really bad. It's a really, really flawed piece of research. One of the recommendations that they made was based on the one experience of a trans person. So it's not like this systemic thing. It's just one person had this experience, and therefore, we have to make all these changes. But look, the most obvious problem with that research, if you have a look at it, I think there were 4 people who worked on the paper, and one of those people is from Transgender Victoria. One of the recommendations made is for Transgender Victoria to provide training to judges and correctional staff. So it's just a fucking money-making thing.
It is.
Like, order the Victorian government to pay Transgender Victoria to train their public servants. It's outrageous. So we're working on that in the background.
Wendy Toohey is a disgrace. I've had conversations with Wendy Toohey, who, she's watched this channel. I don't know how many episodes, and if you're watching, Wendy, she appeared, when I spoke to her, to have some empathy for women who have been silenced talking about this issue. Now, I understand how journalists and other people are in a tenuous position regarding their employment. There's a big difference between writing something that is leaning towards, that is sympathetic to transgender people, and then deliberately writing something that tells barefaced lies that make them look better than they actually are. And she's stepped over that line. If she's mindful about losing her job and therefore, writing pro-trans stuff, I understand that. But you don't have to go into gaslighting and deception and misconstruing research and, being a propaganda perpetuator. You don't have to go that far, Wendy. And when they come for you, which they will, we warned you.
I think I have a sneaking suspicion that she got bullied by her colleagues. I do. I think it may have played out like that, and that she's been sort of cowed into reporting the way that she does. She's just trying to keep the peace with her work colleagues and not be a target of bullying. But yeah, it's
a step too far. Like, I read it and it's like, what? You know, and I read a lot of that pro-trans stuff because that's the only thing in the media. And you can be sympathetic without being dishonest. It's the dishonesty that offends me, the dishonesty where the facts are there and they're reporting on things that have no basis in reality, and they do it willingly. That's where they cross the line.
Well, the other prison story that happened just the last few days was just repulsive. This man had been sexually abusing his two little sisters for like years. One of the charges relates to him holding one of his sisters' heads underwater, and whilst doing so, as a threat that I will kill you if you tell anyone what I've done to you. Absolutely shocking. The ABC, the way that they just stated this like it's a fact. This is from the ABC's coverage of it. The transgender woman, who was male at the time of the alleged offending, has entered pleas of not guilty. It's like, no, he's still male. Wasn't it
67 separate sexual offences?
Yeah.
67.
Mate, this was just shocking to me. I don't know, it shouldn't be. I should be used to this by now. But Magistrate Jane Campbell, so a woman, asserted that housing him in a jail for men would be unsuitable. She said, "To my grand astonishment, I am told he would be held in the male section of a men's prison, and that would clearly not be in the interests of a person who identifies as a woman." Like, just it really is like the body snatchers. These mind parasites have just taken over these people. I can't believe it.
And they didn't send him to a female prison. They set him free.
Yeah, so that was all around whether or not he should get bail, and that was her rationale for giving him bail. Disgusting. I've emailed.
Sorry.
I've emailed that magistrate. I've sent her links to the UN conventions on housing of prisoners, and the need for single-sex prisons are covered in those conventions. I was like, read these, familiarize yourself with these conventions. And I sent her a link to the Women's Forum / Coalition for Biological Reality petition. And I said, please sign our petition. Like, it's just baffling. It's so baffling. Anyway, okay, on to some good news. Australian Catholic schools have released guidance around how schools should be treating children that have gender dysphoria, and it's all gender critical all the way. It was just brilliant. So that's really good news. And I know some time ago, Kat Kariner from LGB Defence, she said something quite controversial, which was at the moment it's actually safer for gay and lesbian kids to be attending religious schools.
It is.
I think she's onto something. She copped a lot of shit for saying that, but she's right.
And the Catholic Church has spent billions of dollars in victims' repatriation, right? So they know what grooming and things like that look like. They don't want to get caught out again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very wise on their part.
Yeah. So Alan Tudge, who was the former Minister for Education when the Liberal Party was in power, he's come out and backed them, said, yep, great move. And I know some gender critical women have said, what an absolute hypocrite. He allowed this, and he did. The Liberals allowed this shit to fester in public schools all around the country. They did nothing about it.
So getting money.
Well, and now it's like, now when they're in opposition, now they're willing to criticize it. It's like, I wish the Liberals would just get their shit together and go after the gender identity nonsense. I can't help but wonder if they're just afraid to do it because the media is so captured.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but I still think that there are so many donors involved, you know, in all the political parties. If you follow the money trail back through the people that, because, you know, your private individuals as well as public companies, everyone can make donations to political parties as long as they're transparent about it. But you can hide who's donating by the name that you give to who made the donation. So you can say, oh, you know, Joe Bloggs donated however many thousands, but nobody knows that Joe Bloggs owns a business that in some way benefits from whoever they're donating money to. So I think if we were able to follow the money trail back, it would be really obvious why these politicians on all sides of politics, apart from the far right ones, are so reluctant to call out, you know, these people, because money it's a political game. It is money is what makes this whole process go around. It's not about policies anymore. It's about you keeping your donors happy. It's in the same way that you know, companies like Coles keep their shareholders happy, and, you know, not the consumers, the shareholders. And it's the same with the government, that they're not keeping the Joe public happy, they're keeping their donors happy. And, you know, and a lot of people get into politics to further their own ambition. So they'll take money from anyone. So, you know, I think if we were able to follow it all back, and there's been a lot of talk, particularly about Victorian Labor, because they were quick to point the finger at the Liberals for having, you know, shonky donations. But there's a lot of speculation in the media that Labor are knee-deep in sort of corrupt donations too, but the media's not reporting on it because it's all the lefty lady Labor media. But, you know, sort of 3 or 4 months ago, there was all this, oh, you know, wait till Dan's receipts are shown sort of speculation, and nothing's eventuated yet. But maybe after the election, when Dan gets back in, maybe then we'll find out what it's all about, and he's got another 3.5 years to make amends for it.
You just reminded me, I went to pick up the signs for our protest this Sunday, and I was having a chat with the guy there who owns the print shop, and he said he'd just done a huge print run for someone who's running against Dan Andrews in Dan Andrews' electorate. And if you're not in Victoria, you probably wouldn't have heard this story, but there was this quite a significant scandal. I can't remember all the ins and outs of it, but it was something like there was this catering business down in Dandenong, and I think they were providing meals to, you know, something government run, like an aged care home or something like that. And, you know, it was a big contract, and someone else wanted the contract. So the health officials who went in to inspect where they prepare all the food planted a slug. And it was just so out of place. There was no way that this slug could have got in there. It's not what slugs usually do. They prefer to be out in the garden. Like, this slug should not have been there. And the guy like lost a lot of money, and I think lost the contract or something. Like, I can't remember all the ins and outs of it, but it was a big scandal. And so the man who owned that catering business is now running, I think as an independent. He must be an independent directly against Dan Andrews.
So Google Sluggate Slugate, and it all comes up.
So that would be hilarious if Dan Andrews lost his seat to an independent.
Over Slugate. That'd be hilarious. I wish. I really do.
Well, you know, like Josh Frydenberg, the treasurer, he lost to a
Yeah.
teal, you know. So we'll see what happens. What else? Yes. Apparently Rita Panahi, Sky News host, columnist for the well, I don't know if it's a column or she just does opinion pieces now and then for like the Herald Sun. Apparently she went off about that evil Dr. Gallagher, the one with the crazy eyes, yeet the teats woman. Like, she went off about it. It must have been on Twitter, and I think it was the Daily Mail ran a story about it. So thank you, Rita. We appreciate you speaking up.
And the lefty media that reported on that as well, and all her detractors were just accusing her of transphobia. None of them were having a look at what Gallagher does.
The promotion, like targeting children and teens on TikTok is so unethical.
And lying to them.
She's advertising to them. I thought there were rules in the USA about advertising to children, and surely, you know, at some point she's got to be taken down for that.
I saw in her advertising that pain after double mastectomy, 4 out of 10. Now, I've had a chunk cut out of my breast, not even had my whole breast cut off, and the pain for 6 weeks after, every time I moved my arm, was a shooting pain that was probably an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So she's telling children who don't have a high pain threshold because they haven't experienced a lot of pain, telling children that having both of your breasts removed and drains put in and all stitches and all that stuff and muscles, you know, moved around and removed and whatever, she's telling her that, oh, it's only a little bit painful.
I watched the detransitioner talking about how they became addicted to opioids in the course of their the surgeries that they had. Like, it's just so unethical. But yeah, I actually caught my first ever 30-day ban on Facebook this week. It finally happened. And it was Dr. Gallagher related. I made this little meme just to chuck in the comments somewhere of Gallagher with the speech bubble saying, "I want to cut your daughter's breasts off." And then, you know, a little bit of an explanation at the bottom that she advertises to children on TikTok. And it was the bots. The algorithm picked that up as being inciting violence. So I've had to go through the rigmarole of creating a fake account and all that. Anyway. Other good news, young GC women unite.
Yay.
Woo! So young women are coming out on Twitter and talking about how a lot of them went from being trans activists to being TERFs. A really good one that I saw was she started hate reading TERF literature. She wanted to like pick it apart and hate on TERFs, and to her shock and horror, she agreed with everything that was being said.
I always tell them to read J.K. Rowling's essay, because all of the young women who are going, she's a transphobe, okay, can you like point out exactly where she says something that's transphobic? Go and read it, go and read it and tell me. They never get back to me. But I always encourage them to, because that's how they shift that cognitive dissonance,
Absolutely. Ambulance Victoria have made a very questionable decision to spend something like $770,000 on officers to promote, to embed diversity and inclusion in the service.
Yep. Here in Victoria, 30-something people have died just this year because an ambulance didn't come in time, within the recommended time for an ambulance to get from, you know, their call to a house, because each region has recommended times. I know where I am, it can take 16 minutes in an emergency for an ambulance to get to my house. So imagine, you know, that blowing out to 45 minutes. That's the difference between life and death. And so, yeah, 30-something people already this year have died because an ambulance didn't reach them in time. Some calls went completely unanswered for 45 minutes, right? So then there's not, one, the calls aren't getting through. Two, there's not enough ambulances to respond to the calls. Three, the ambulances are ramped up at emergency and patients aren't getting seen by doctors because of overcrowded public hospitals. So the whole health system has essentially collapsed, right? And yet Ambulance Victoria, which is state government funded, is spending, you know, $750,000 on diversity and inclusion training officers. I mean, it's effing insane and so insulting to taxpayers and people, you know, and to the people whose family members have died because of the negligence of the system.
Yeah, and appallingly, like one of the positions, I think it was paying like 160,000 a year or something like that, and you compare that to the actual paramedics that are out there in the field. Yeah. And like the starting salary is like 75,000 a year or something. It was around that. So this huge discrepancy.
A lot of these roles that are created for, you know, diversity inclusion officers, they're created in the public service. They're created to provide employment for trans and gender diverse people. And then the organisation that employs that trans and gender diverse person then gets grants based on the fact that they've employed someone who is trans or gender diverse. Most of these people would be unemployable in any other role. The only reason that they get these jobs is because it is their obsession to convert people to their religion.
I'm giggling because I just saw a freaking hilarious picture of trans-identified male with like really bad makeup. he looked ridiculous, and this was how he had chosen to present himself for a job interview. It's like, I'm going for a job interview. What do you think of my makeup?
Probably, if you didn't get the job, he'd probably sue them and say it was discrimination. So people go, yeah, take the job, we'll pay you anything. But, you know, I get contacted often, and even by some of my good friends who all thought I was a conspiracy theorist a few years ago, who are coming to me and going, oh my God, someone in my workplace that I've known for 10 years has suddenly transitioned into a woman, and we're all tiptoeing around them, and they're going to affect business, and they're going to, you know, I don't know what to say to them, and they're going to come in the toilet and freaking out because what we told them was going to happen years ago is actually happening. It's impacting on them in their own workplace. And they know that the person is an AGP.
Yeah.
And they're now frozen, stuck with this person. If they complain, they're too afraid to complain because then they're the bad guy and they might lose their job.
Yeah. God, it's really positioned trans people as the most powerful in the workplace. It really has. It's this complete inversion of power. It's crazy. Now, some people might be familiar with the organisation Counterweight, which was started up by Helen Pluckrose and James Lindsay. James Lindsay's no longer there, I don't think so. Helen's running the show, and they're putting on a conference about, well, how can we do diversity and inclusion in the workplace in an actual liberal sense, not this regressive, woke, totalitarian bullshit but in a way that is actually liberal or libertarian and fair for all workers. So that's coming up. You can get free access to it for 24 hours if you sign up, or you can pay 50 British pounds to get access to it for a year. So I'm going to try and do the free one and just spend a day binge watching and see what they've got to say. Yeah. But look, she's very focused on more so, I think, the critical race theory aspect to the woke agenda. Yep. But I'm sure there'll be stuff in there about the gender identity agenda as well. Yeah.
Speaking of diversity and inclusion, Q&A.
Oh God, yeah, they've done it again.
Yep, last week we complained about Q&A for mansplaining the whole men in women's sport, and their panel consisted of 3 men, a trans identified man, and a woman. Was that it? Yeah,
that's about right. Plus Scan Grant.
So, and this week there is once again one woman, one trans identified woman, and the rest of the panel are men. Yeah. So there was an article this week saying that Q&A has the worst ratings that they've ever had. And then last week's episode, they dived even further, which we kind of predicted, and they are not learning. And we are all screeching, saying, hey, ABC, tagging them and telling them exactly what is wrong. And they're completely ignoring us because they want to appease Acon and whoever else. Now, even the most leftist woman will be watching Q&A and thinking, there are no women on this show. There's one woman and 3 men, and all the men, including the trans-identifying ones, talk over the female panelists. You know, I don't know how anyone can't see what's happening here.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you know, the ABC's Sunday morning show, The Insiders, like they've been called out a lot for only platforming men or predominantly platforming men. And so, you know, when are you going to learn? Like, you know, the ABC has absolutely had loads of freaking diversity and inclusion training, and they are still getting this wrong. Or maybe it's maybe women just don't want to go on Q&A because it's so shit. I don't know.
But imagine if there was a female-only panel show, the criticism.
Yeah.
That'd be just outrageous. If we, as women, had the equivalent of that, you know, men and women's sport episode, and all of the panelists were women and a trans-identified male.
Yeah, I know. We'd get abused. They'd get abused for it.
Yep.
Apparently, years ago, or a couple of years ago, the ABC did run a Q&A that was all women, and they were talking about women's stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I think the scandal was that one of the women on the panel said something about, I don't know if it was capital punishment.
It was Mona.
Yeah.
That Mona, my nemesis. I remember that. She said something about killing men or something like it was. Yeah. And it went crazy. Now, I've had a massive falling out with that woman on Twitter over this whole trans women are women business. Hilarious. But it was her, and so they never did it again. It got scuttled. But there was a really positive response from women, but men tore it to shreds.
I thought it didn't even get aired in the end.
Well, no, cut it out. They cut that bit out.
Oh, they cut that bit out. Right. Okay.
It was available for a short period of time on, I think, YouTube or on the ABC thing in its entirety. And then, of course, it started getting attention. They removed it. Like they've removed all the previously questioning trans stuff that the ABC's ever had on air. So, madness. And they're going to blame Stan Grant when they do scrap Q&A, which is inevitable that, you know, that's going to get cancelled. They're going to blame Stan, the Aboriginal man.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it seemed that way. Like they're sort of leading people down that path. They don't. The Australian audience don't like the host. That was sort of what they were pushing.
Yep.
it's just a shit format. I don't like the format. It's cringy and painful to watch.
Yeah, look, if it was balanced, if everyone in the panel got a chance to speak and they were all from different backgrounds, then maybe it might be interesting. But no, it's just a completely stacked panel every week.
Yeah,
and the audience is stacked too, because they don't let people, ask simple questions unless they promote the agenda the ABC wants to promote. So the whole show is a show. It's not based in reality. And the whole thing was that it was meant to be live television and reflect the society that it's talking about. And it's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I've written all my stuff on this scrap of paper and I'm trying to read it without glasses. Yeah.
Well, I guess we could talk about we've got this election coming up here in Victoria, so people the major parties are doing fundraisers, and someone who is a Victorian Labor Party member sent me a couple of screenshots of these fundraisers that are being advertised to Labor Party members, and oh mate, one was like a drag queen. I don't even know like what kind of performance this drag queen was putting on, but that was for a Labor candidate in quite close to me in Brighton, the very posh area of Melbourne, Brighton. And then the other one was this online event where the star was Eddie Izzard.
And do you know what was so offensive about that? The candidate promoting that, the Minister for Women.
Yep.
And Eddie Izzard, Zoom or whatever he was doing in to this fundraiser.
It was an online event, and this is hilarious. Like the tickets were $60, but if you wanted to ask Eddie a question, then you paid $100.
I would love to see footage of that. So if you've had to endure that and you want to sling us a copy, we will pick shreds off it for your entertainment.
Oh, mate. Okay. The last item of news on my list is The Age ran a bullshit opinion piece by Dr. Fiona Bishop, who is the president of OzPath, which is, Australia's equivalent to WPATH, the Australian Professional Association of Transgender Health. And it was all about how we don't need to worry about the Tavistock closing because Australia's already doing everything that the CAS, that Dr. Hilary Cass recommended in her last letter. We're already doing all of that, so there's no need.
That's not true. Our whole system is based on the Tavistock, and the only reason that ours is already decentralised is because of geography, because the UK is a small place, Australia is a big place. So all of our gender clinics, we have our main hub, which is at Royal Children's Hospital, and our satellite clinics come out from that. So that's the only reason that we have decentralised.
Yeah.
But other than that, all of it's and it's even on the Royal Children's Hospital website that all of the policies that the CAS report highlighted are still being embraced by Royal Children's Hospital.
I mean, the fact they still state on that website that puberty blockers are reversible, I mean, they're wrong. They're so far off the mark. They've got their fingers in their ears going, no, I can't hear you. That's...
And parents and detransitioners and people are coming forward saying, look, I didn't have any psychological evaluation. I got, medication at first visit, or I got referral at first visit, or whatever. And they're pretending that that's not happening. They say, oh, no, we thoroughly screen our referrals and blah, blah, blah. But how can you if you're an affirmation-only service? So the gaslighting.
Especially Jay, I think the surname is Longado, the lesbian detransitioner up in New South Wales. Her story of getting referred for testosterone after one session with the psychiatrist, and then the next session she got referred for a double mastectomy.
Mhm.
Okay, that's a huge failing that OzPath should be jumping up and down about, because that was a private psychiatrist that did that. Okay, so it wasn't through a gender clinic, but you know, OzPath should be really concerned, and they're not.
No. And they say, oh, the number of detransitioners is minute. Now, the fact that the number of transitioners has gone through the roof in the last 5 years means that that previously minute number of detransitioners is going to be a massive amount in the next 5 years.
Absolutely. It's coming, and it's going to become undeniable.
I know trans kids. I know kids who've been down this process, and I can see that they're just, once their brains mature and they're in their early 20s, that they're going to wake up. And that's why people tell me, cut them clean. If someone's, you know, selfish enough to trans their kid, you shouldn't be talking to them. You shouldn't be associating with them.
Yeah.
Nah, because they know I'm here. They know that I'm, you know, a horrible TERF, but they know I'm here. So when the shit hits the fan, because I remember my parents, for all of their failings, when AIDS was happening and the place was the most homophobic you could imagine, people would run you off the road in their cars and try and run you over if they thought you were same-sex attracted. Abuse in the streets for someone slightly effeminate, you know, like just, it was horrific. And my parents were the ones who took in those kids that got kicked out of home because they were gay when they were 16, 17, right? And I just can't bring myself to cut off, you know, kids whose parents have let them down in that way, even if their parents didn't do it deliberately. I just can't punish those kids and cut them out of my life because of decisions that the medical establishment and, you know, often their parents have made when they should have been guided in a different way, you know? So I'll continue to cop shit, but I'm not cutting these people out of my life. And how the hell are we going to learn about the process if we don't talk to people who have been through the process?
Exactly.
You know, I'm not pretending I'm not a TERF in order to extract information out of them. They know why I'm trying to get information out of them, because I'm trying to protect other kids.
Yeah.
And parents too, you know. And a lot of parents they believe everything the medical establishment tells them. And why wouldn't you? Because your GP, you go to your GP, they say, we don't understand about gender dysphoria, so we will send you to the experts at the gender clinic. And these people come in their white coats, you know, with all their letters next to their names. And of course they go, well, this is the specialist. And they come in and say, oh, I'm the specialist endocrinologist and this is what will happen. And, you know, and so of course they put their faith in it. And they've got this little nagging voice, you know. I mean, I've had medical procedures where I've looked back and gone, oh, shit, why did I believe that? You know, and it was nothing that bad. I got told that a stomach ulcer was in my head, you know. So, you know, you put your faith in the medical system and that can let you down, you know. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's sort of the other side of this. It's not just going to be detransitioners whose life have been devastated. It's going to be their parents as well. Like the guilt. I can't imagine the guilt of being a parent that encouraged your child to go down this path and who now regrets it. Like, this is going to have like such a huge impact on families. It's just it already is having that impact.
And we know they're mostly gay and autistic kids too.
Love you, Ange, but I can hear you tapping your.
Kilometrico. Yeah, no, you know, mostly gay and autistic kids too. We can't abandon the kids, you know. Just upsets me so much.
Look, the other interesting thing in that Age article by the OzPath woman was, you know, she linked to 3 research papers that were meant to demonstrate that children's mental health improves as a result of gender affirmation, which is puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. But I don't know about the other 2, but one of those research papers that she linked to has been thoroughly torn apart by an American guy, Jesse Singal. He wrote this really lengthy dissection of their research paper and found that the data that they based their conclusions on did not actually show any improvement in mental health. It showed that mental health remained the same, whether you were after being put on these treatments. So that research has been cited so many times in media. The last time I saw it cited here in Victoria was by the Victorian LGBT Commissioner, Todd Fernando, in some rebuttal opinion piece that he wrote to a Julie Sego article. So just this constant churning out of bad research here in Australia. It's ridiculous. Well, around the world, it's ridiculous. That's the state of transgender medicine and research.
Yep, it's all from within the transgender community. So it's biased research. It's not even research. Yeah. Special shout out to musician Darren Hayes, ex from Savage Garden, who has unwittingly committed a terribly transphobic act by calling his new album homosexual.
Oh, did he know what he was doing?
No, he's got no idea, the poor guy.
Well, he's going to know now, isn't he?
Yeah, I thought, oh, poor old Darren, Aussie artist. Yes, that's not going to go down very well, because he was the star attraction at last year's Mardi Gras. And he's a proud gay man, and I've followed his career since we were both youngsters. I was living in Brisbane, and I think I saw some of Savage Garden's early gigs, and I was embarrassed to tell my goth friends that I was a huge fan of this, pop band. And so it's interesting, and I'm like, oh, Darren, oh, you don't realise, and this is it. A lot of the mainstream gay community, like, they don't realise what the TQ is on about, because they're sort of separate from it, because they're just sticking with their gay community.
Yeah.
They don't realise that they're being erased.
Yeah.
And that the people that they're defending would destroy them.
Yeah. So has that been announced on Twitter, and has there been
it's on his Twitter.
Has there been a backlash yet?
I haven't had a look.
Okay.
I saw it the other day and I had a bit of a laugh to myself. Yeah, it hasn't been released yet. It says forthcoming album or something. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So anything else?
No, I think that's everything. TERF of the week.
Yes. You've actually highlighted the TERF of the week, which is Bev McArthur.
Yeah.
And tell us what Bev's done.
So she's a Victorian Liberal MP, and she did an excellent speech in the upper house about the erasure of women from language. Mm-hmm. Really well done. I will link to it in the comments. You should follow Bev on Facebook if you're in Australia. She's sort of our we've actually got two versions of Senator Claire Chandler here in Victoria. We've got Bev McArthur and Louise Staley representing, both Liberal women. So thank you to them.
My local MP is a Liberal, and she knows what a woman is too.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, it is only Liberal women who are willing to stand up and be candid on this issue. So it's disappointing, but I'm willing to support them.
That really went off. I saw there's some, I don't know if it's a group or a page on Facebook called Goldfields Community News.
Yeah.
So Bev, represents a rural area of Victoria, and they did a post about it, and all the TERFs got in the comments and we're like, yeah, Bev's right, and rural Australians aren't buying this shit. Why would they?
Yep, she's down west, down towards Warrnambool, and I noticed when I was in Warrnambool and Portland and those towns recently, all the youth services there are very pro-trans, and there's a gender clinic in Warrnambool, so they know about this stuff.
Yes.
There's satellite gender clinics in all the major towns, Ballarat, Bendigo, Traralgon, Warrnambool, all the major regional cities, Shepparton. There's about 36 just in our state.
Wow.
So
Wow.
this tiny, they were so, oh, there's only such a tiny amount of transgender people. Now, I live in a rural area, and every time I leave the house, I usually see a trans man, if not a trans woman. So this tiny amount has absolutely exploded since lockdown. And I don't know about anyone else's kids, but my kids went from, using their screens a couple of hours a day to absolute and utter screen junkies during lockdown because there was nothing else to do. So I'm quite sure that a lot of these children discovered the whole trans thing through lockdown, and straight after it, came out. And we're going to have this massive explosion. The thing is, though, that the government, just like they're doing with the amount of trans-identified males in women's prisons, because of the they're misrepresenting the sexes. So they're not keeping adequate statistics on the number of trans identifying young people that are converting. Like the gender clinics can't be relied upon. And they're not releasing the amount of kids that they treat or how many of them go on to, cross-sex hormones and surgery. Like, they're not releasing any of this information. So unfortunately, really, we can only tell how many more kids are adopting a trans identity by paying attention to our children's class members. My daughter says there's 3 girls in her class. This time last year, there were 0. 3 girls in her class now who now identify as non-binary. And they said that what happens is they just come to school one day with a short haircut and wearing the boys' uniform, and that's it. They call them a different name. And they've set aside a separate toilet for children who are in the gender woo. So they've kept the male and female toilets as they should. And now there is a separate toilet for, the both genders, which I'm quite pleased about. So they're not, allowing males into female toilets, etc. So
that's a fair solution. That's a good solution. Yeah.
Every time I leave the house, there's stickers around about, trans rights, trans liberation, whatever. I noticed them. I'm in a semi-rural area or in the suburban fringe, and I've noticed, evidence of this ideology everywhere I go. I've noticed that my own council, who I can guarantee you is paying some of my rates to ACON, has just had a flag raising ceremony of the rainbow flag, and I haven't driven past the council building to see if it's the rainbow flag that I like or if it's the rainbow flag that represents a fascist dictatorship. So, I'm going to, if I see that progress flag up there, I'm going to go and pay the council a visit with the next in-person council meeting and ask them how much money they're putting into that. So, and also when you ring up my local council, which is Shire Rangers, so if you want to dox me, now you know that I live within, they now say, welcome, to men, women and non-binary people.
What about the cat gender people? Come on.
Yeah, that'll be next. But who authorises this shit? Yeah. Who authorises the council that I pay my rates to directly, who I see very little for? The roads are full of potholes, signs are all broken, you can't even tell which street you're going down because the sign's broken, no one's repaired it. Your bin half the time doesn't get picked up. I can see no, obviously, our rates are paying for stuff, but not much tangible evidence in my daily life. And yet they've found the money to go and, invest in this pride and diversity bullshit and buy a fancy flag and have a flag raising ceremony and introduce the, welcome to the non-binary people ahead of the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander welcome, by the way.
No, it's everywhere. It just goes on and on.
I'm tapping because I'm getting angry. These are the best pens. These things, they are the best pens, the Kilometrico. I used to have these in high school and I still use them now.
Turd of the week. That is, I'm going to say it again, trans extremist radical dickhead is the guy that poured piss on himself and pissed himself in public. I mean, you got to be a giant dickhead to do something like that. And then it becomes like, how do you get home from the city if you're covered in piss? He must have had a change of clothes.
No, I don't think so. Anyone who's that feral and doesn't wear underpants and pours piss all over themselves. And the funny thing is that it's wearing a mask, but someone's figured out who it is. So they've just put up all these other, because he's a performance artist, apparently.
There you go.
A trans performance artist. And all his performances are him writhing and gyrating around and getting his dick out.
Of course.
Yeah. So that's your trans woman. When you chant trans women are women, that's your sick, twisted autogynephile. It's not your transsexual with internalized homophobia that there was, 10, 20 years ago. It's not that person. The person that you think you're talking about when you're saying trans women are women is that AGP. It's not that, other person. So it makes me so mad. And I think that distinction has to be made, because once people realise AGPs are out there, something seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Unless you're like one of these militant leftists like Van Batten and Clementine Ford, who don't believe AGPs exist.
It's a very good tool for peaking people, is to explain the difference between autogynephilia and homosexual transsexualism. But look, we're going to have to wrap it up there. Thank you again to everyone watching. We really appreciate you. We've been getting some more emails in from our viewers over the last week. So thanks for them. I will endeavour to respond to all of them shortly.
I did figure something. Keely J's Standing for Women Local is coming to Australia. So there will be a local contact for women who watch Keely J and go, oh, wow, I wonder if there's any TERFs. And they'll go through a screening process and then be put in touch with other women in Australia as a way of networking. So they'll have their own branch here in Australia. And hopefully through that, we'll be able to get merchandise that is affordable, because we can cut out some of the postage and customs charges so people can buy the merch and be the billboard. So that's a good point that I forgot to bring up. I'm really sorry. Yes.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone. Please like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. And we will see you again next week, if not sooner. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, wait, I clicked the wrong button. Bye.